We have historically been in a business where all we did was sell energy. And customers didn't really think about the components of it. They didn't think about transmission, distribution, generation. They didn't think about how it was generated. They didn't even think about how it got to their house. All they thought about was they came home, they flipped a switch, electricity was on, and they were happy. And as Ralph mentioned, they didn't really value it until it went away. But the other part of that story is our employees never really thought about the customer. So as much as we didn't, as consumers, think about how we got the product that was our salvation in civilization, our employees didn't really think about how our customers are all different. And what's happening right now is extraordinary. For the very, very first time, customers are becoming their own utilities in many ways. So we have customers who are deciding that they want to self-generate, and we have customers who are deciding they want to sell back to the grid. We have regulatory policies in most of our jurisdictions that allow that to happen. And all of that, from the customer's perspective, is really good. And many of them, and I call this a solar conundrum, many of these customers have a credit at the end of the month, and they're running a credit, and they think they've gone off grid. And because they understand so little about how electricity works and how the grid works and have very little value on the grid, they don't know that every time a cloud comes over, it's magic, and the grid is supplying energy to their home, that it is so fast that they don't know it. And our employees, likewise, don't have a language to express and explain all of this to the customers. So one of the things that I'm looking at, and our company is focused on very heavily right now, is we've made this massive investment in the smart grid, both in meters and sensors on the premise, as well as advanced technology out on the grid. We've integrated into our restoration process. We're getting very smart about how to use that data in restoration. Now it's time to see what else we can do with that data. And so there are a lot of things that we want to change internally. Change is really hard. So how many people have made a fundamental change in their life in the last year, intentionally? Very few of us actually do. Most of us make fundamental changes because it's been forced on us, right? You get in a car accident, you have to go buy a new car. A new birth in the family, you've got to change your house. A business collapses, you got to go find a new job. There are very few people who make very fundamental changes in their life willingly. And our employees in our companies are not any different. They are used to doing their job in the same way that they've done it and that we've done it and performed in our companies for 100 years. So we all talk about the utility being siloed. There's nothing wrong with gathering a group of people with like skills to focus their attention on a particular problem and to be responsive to the organization and the customers to meet that challenge. But we also want them now to think about things differently. So think about one of the most basic functions we do in a utility. We plan our electric system. I want my system planners to now start being smart about the customers that they serve. They have not historically thought about their customers. So a system planner might go out and look at economic development data. They might see where their new building starts, where a permit's getting pulled. Do I have to heavy up a feeder? Do I have to extend it? Do I have to build a new substation? But now I think they're going to have to worry about what's Tesla doing in their marketing plan? Who in our customer base has a propensity to buy electric vehicles? Where is it going to happen first? When is it going to happen? Should I put a bigger transformer in now in anticipation of what's going to happen in a year? Should I wait until the transformer fails and replace it then? How do you analyze these things? So for the very, very first time, you want really smart engineers to be as smart about the electric system as they are going to have to be smart about the customer. And conversely, in our customer organization, utilities have an obligation to serve. We are unique in, if you think about us as a retail operation, we are unique in the retail world. We don't get to pick our customers. We don't get to pick the marketing and the product to target the customers that we want to buy our product. We have to sell it to everyone. Now, historically, our messages have been very unilateral. Do this for this reason. Now, if I'm marketing energy efficiency programs, and I do think that that's increasingly the way of the world in the future, I want to be able to understand the message that will appeal to my different customer segments. So I'm going to have one message that I'm going to send to customers that say, engage in this energy efficiency program because it's going to save you money. And I have another message that's going to go to a different neighborhood of people, or maybe even individual people that says, engage in this energy efficiency program because it will help improve the climate and your community, right? But I'm going to have to get smart about all of my customers and understand how to do that. That change is hard. Getting people who have long tenured in their organizations that have existed for a long time, getting them to think about what's available, what information is available out in the ecology. And it's not just utility data. It's not just consumption data. It's not just measurements on the grid, but it's external data that's available to us. What data is available to us to help me solve the problem, and what new problems do I need to solve? So when we think about all this new technology, and we've been saying this internally for years, the technology that we've done on the smart grid has actually been the easiest thing we've ever done. As hard as that stuff was, that was the easy part. The hard part is explain interval data to a customer, explain to them how to interpret it, and even harder still, explain to your employees why they should be looking at this information differently. So one of the great wins that we have internally is we started out with a job called an energy advisor in our customer service organization, where we encouraged these, we trained them to a deeper level than our normal customer service rep, and we trained them to look at the interval data that a customer had. And when a customer called in about a high bill complaint, they were redirected to those energy advisors. And those energy advisors were able to have a conversation with the customer about, what were you doing on Wednesday? We see that your usage spiked and you had unusual patterns. This week they were different than the previous week. And eventually that conversation changed from being a conversation about a high bill to a conversation about how to save money. And the best part of that story was those energy advisors, after a couple of months, said, I don't know how I could talk to a customer if I didn't have that data.